Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here with Alexis Gallati of Cerebral Tax Advisors, who is one of our key resources at the Prudent Plastic Surgeon, but also is my tax advisor, which is why I love promoting what she does because I've seen firsthand how much she's helped us. And so we wanted to kind of meet and just have this discussion to provide a little bit of education around tax efficiency, I guess we can say, since that's obviously on a lot of physicians' minds. But first of all, Alexis, thanks for all you do. And maybe you can give a kind of quick background about yourself and how you got started in this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jordan, for having me. So I grew up in a physician's household. My father is a neurologist and he's now retired. But I also married a physician and we met like the second week of college. And so before he even decided to go that route, I really started to dedicate my life towards taxes, which sounds really weird, but I love taxes. I love figuring out how to keep my own money, most importantly. But what I really found was during, residency and medical school, et cetera. I mean, you guys don't receive any sort of education whatsoever on how to run a practice, or let alone your own personal finances. And so I really, after working for local and regional CPA firms for 13 years, I started Cerebral, going out on my own to really focus more on that tax planning, because that's really where the value is in the tax code, is figuring out where not the loopholes, but essentially where the deductions and the credits and the areas where you can have that more flexibility in order to save legally on your taxes. And we were living in New York State at the time as well, which, Jordan, as you're well aware, has very high taxes, not only income tax, but property tax and sales tax, et cetera. So, it was really important for me to figure out, not only for our own situation, but also, for my clients, how we can, best our tax scenario.
Yeah, and I agree. I think taxes are exciting too. And if like 16-year-old me heard me say that, he'd probably like punch me or make fun of me or something. Yeah. But it is. And I think the thing that shifted my whole thinking about it is like someone, and it may have even been you or in your book that I've read, like the tax code is really, it's the government telling you how they want you to live. In a way, they're giving you incentives to do certain things, and you start looking at it like that, and it kind of becomes a fun game of seeing, okay, how can I be the most efficient?
Yeah, it's a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of alluded to it. And one of the things I get asked a lot by people, especially as I've shared, our tax plan, the tax plan you came up with for Selenite and I, but people say, okay, what's the difference between like a tax advisor and someone who's just filing your taxes? Is that a different kind of person, or how does that work? So how do you make that definition and sort of like describe everything you're bringing to the table as a tax advisor?
Yeah, no, it's a very great question. So you kind of think of it just like physicians. Not all physicians are created equal as well. You'll have those that are generalists and those that are specialists. And so when you go to like an H&R Block or even maybe a mom and pop shop down the street, I mean, most of them are working reactively, and that means that they're preparing your tax return. They're really not looking at your year and saying, hey, where are the opportunities for us to save additional tax? Because as most of you will find out as you're investigating different strategies, most of them have to be done in the year that you want that deduction or credit to apply. There are a few things you can do retroactively, but in majority, it's going to be in the current year. So the way that someone like myself and the team at Cerebral are different, we're very proactive in how we approach each of our clients' tax situations. So we look at your, we do projections throughout the year. We do a minimum of 2, and that allows us to help eliminate surprises. It allows us to apply different strategies that may come up depending on changes in your situation or changes in tax law. So in effect, you're tax efficient throughout the year, where what most people are used to are, hey, I got my tax return and maybe my accountant gave me a few little tips and tricks for the current year, but that was the end of it. They don't handhold like Cerebral does.
Yeah. And I have to say, it's really amazing because I was actually, after we did our planning and got a return and everything, and we were obviously really happy, I was talking with my mom and my stepdad, who he's a physical therapist and they run their office. And I was sort of just saying like, oh, it's amazing now that I have some non-W-2 income, all of these cool deductions and things I can take and strategies I can use. And they use some big local accounting firm and they were like, well, we don't use those. What do you mean? And I was like, oh my God, you have to. So it really is important that you're getting someone really knowledgeable, and they actually may be coming to talk to you at some point. So with that said, I want to sort of get in some quick hitters and actionable items and things people can start thinking about to get their taxes in better order, because this is always something that there's a lot of questions on. First, like when is a good time? When's a good time to start thinking about this? Because most of the time people start thinking about it like 2 weeks before the deadline. So when's a good time?
Yeah, well, truly, the earlier in the year, the better, because if there are strategies that are time sensitive, then we want to be able to take advantage of those strategies as soon as possible. Now, there'll be other strategies that you can kind of retroactively during the year, go and set up. So think about like an accountable plan. So then that way you can be reimbursed for personal expenses or business expenses that you paid personally. That can be set up retroactively, but things like if you are earning 1099 income and you're being paid in your personal Social Security number versus your business EIN, well, the longer that you wait, the longer that, or the less income that will go into that EIN as opposed to your personal Social Security number. So earlier is always best. But as we get towards the end of the year, it starts to get more difficult because there's less time for us to implement strategies.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then, so for physicians who are strictly W-2 income, what are the things they need to be making sure that they're doing to try to be the most tax efficient? And we'll talk a little bit after about the more flexibility and options for physicians with non-W-2 income. But specifically for W-2 income physicians now, what do they need to make sure they're doing?
Yeah, so obviously the tax code is really built for those that have some income as an independent contractor or real estate or something else going on. But if you're strictly W-2, what you can be looking for is obviously if your employer provides a retirement plan, maxing out that retirement, that's going to be probably one of the biggest things you can do. Next is HSAs, so health savings accounts. If you are eligible for it, you have to have a high deductible plan in order to be eligible. And that's something you can easily go on Google and figure out those requirements and then see if your plan applies. Then that's another way you can do it. Tax loss harvesting, if you do have a taxable account, and even charitable giving. So if you want to open up a donor advised fund, or if you want to look at charitable trusts, private foundations, those are all things that someone can do even without that 1099 income.
Okay. And then for physicians who are making 1099 income, whether it's or whether it's from a private practice that they work at or own, whether it's doing something on the side like I'm doing, what more creative things can they do? Because I think highlighting this, then hopefully some other physicians will realize, well, maybe I should start, making some of this income to give myself some of these options. Because you can do it as simple as like have your LLC if you're doing medical surveys or something like that and making money that way. So what are some of the things those physicians have open to them?
Yeah, so there really is a plethora of different strategies available. And some of it depends upon how much 1099 income you actually have. If you are doing surveys, you're probably not really making more than $5,000 a year.
Mhm.
If you are, that's amazing, and keep going. But and so even with that, you're able to go and write off different things that your employer might not allow you to get reimbursed for. That's what you're really looking for, are things that you need to have. Let's say CE, for example. If you're only allowed to have $2,000 worth of CE through your employer, but you go to a $3,000 course, well, that $1,000 you can write off through your business. So then that way, you're still being able to continue with your education and everything. So, and then, being able, if you have more income, you can do things like hiring your kids. That helps you shift income from your higher tax bracket down to their lower tax bracket, helps to save for their retirement or help out with writing off their support. You can do the same thing with parents. If you're supporting your parents, you can have them working legitimate jobs in your business and help write off that support. Retirement plans, you can continue to do more into retirement as well, put more away, not just what your employer gives, but then off of the income that you've earned 1099. Really, it's an open book almost of different strategies and write-offs that allow someone to really take advantage of the code in their favor.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's all really exciting. And like all of personal finance, but I think especially taxes tend to be a black box a bit for pretty much everyone, but for physicians as well. And so that's why I really appreciate, you're obviously very education forward, and you've helped me understand and learn a ton. And the tax strategies that you've implemented for us have been very, very successful. And so I definitely appreciate everything that you've done for Selny and me and for our whole community. So if anyone's interested in getting in touch with Alexis at Cerebral Tax Advisors, you can go on my site to the recommended section, and under tax advisors, you can find a ton of information and direct contacts. And then if someone wants to get in touch with you even more directly or through an alternative route, what's the best way, Alexis?
Yeah, you can just email me, Alexis at cerebraltaxadvisors.com, and we'll make sure that you get taken care of.
All right. Thanks so much, Alexis.
Great. Thank you.